Hi everyone, Bandana here, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. So, having looked at the top upcoming RTS games, let's take a look at the top upcoming turn-based strategy games. Please do let us know what you're most looking forward to down in the comments below. Or indeed, if you think I've missed something that should make it into the list, let me know in the comments as well. Let's get straight into it. First up is obviously Civilization 7. How could we have this list without this game? As someone who's played all the previous Civilizations at one point or another, I'm really looking forward to this, and they are certainly changing things up. In fact, there are so many changes and updates, it would simply be too much for me to mention everything here, so let's focus on the big stuff. Leaders are no longer linked to one nation, and as you progress through the now 3 ages of the game, you'll actually be requested to change your nation and offered an alternative at each age up. And I should note that each of the ages, the Antiquity, Exploration and Modern ages, all run longer than the old ones. Settlers no longer found cities, they found towns which can then be evolved into cities, and there are no longer workers. Upgrades will get built automatically around your towns in new tiles. And speaking of tiles, you'll be asked to select a tile to expand into rather than a city just randomly expanding. Another big change is military units no longer level up except for the new commander units, which give bonuses to units near them. And there is an array of other changes including navigatable rivers, narrative events, crisis events, barbarians have been replaced with independent powers that can become city-states, etc, etc. As I say, there's simply too much to mention in just this one little clip of a video, but it's out on the 11th of February, so not long to wait now. Next up is a sequel to a series that has actually always slipped me by, and that is Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. An extremely popular series of games, and I know a fair few people who love them. Maybe this will be the one that I end up playing. In this game, you're going to take part in an epic campaign set on a mysterious continent where rival factions must forge fragile alliances to face the Hive, a swarm of insectoids corrupted by an inferno demon lord hell-bent on subjugating the world. You will choose from a roster of unique factions, mixing returning fan favourites and brand new creations, each with their own unique gameplay style, as well as their own creatures, heroes, and unique faction abilities. The series has always kind of struck me as Total War meets Dungeons & Dragons without the real-time combat. So if you like either of those things, it's probably worth a look, and it's due out in Q2 2025. Next up is MENACE, a really cool looking game from Overhype Studios, the same team that made Battle Brothers, and it's the first of a few hooded horse games that are making it into this list. In this turn-based tactical game, you will be able to field tanks, mechs and infantry squads with massive selections of equipment to choose from. You'll train troops, plan operations and engage in deadly tactical battles. Launching from your strike cruiser, the TCRN Impetus, you'll engage on multiple missions with branching paths that lead to further missions. And you'll be the one making all the decisions as communication with command has been lost. Prepare for epic battles and expect losses as you come under a hail of fire from bullets, plasma bolts and missiles. But of course, you'll be throwing plenty back. And one of the beauties of this game is everything is procedurally generated as you play for endless replayability. If you're a fan of things like XCOM or the Xenonaut series or any of these other tactical turn-based games, you'll definitely find a home here. The team are actively uploading dev blogs, so do check out their Steam page, and it's due out in Q3 2025. Next up is a sequel to another fairly popular game, and that is Warhammer 40,000 Mechanicus 2. In the 41st millennium, there is only war. Now if I keep doing that voice, I will get a sore throat. The sequel lets you take either control of the Necron legions or the techno-religious acolytes of the Omnissiah. Not only will you have to crush your foes on the battlefield, you'll also have to secure territory and manage it, protecting valuable resources and managing the garrisons of those locations. Assemble your forces wisely from a significantly expanded selection of units. If you're a fan of turn-based tactics and you like the 40k universe, well, this is probably one to keep an eye on. Currently, release date is to be announced. While we are on a roll with the turn-based tactics, let's take a look at Mars Tactics, a new game coming from Takibi Games and Hooded Horse. The Red Planet is at war, lead either the capital's corporate army or the labour workers' revolutionaries and wage war across a vast strategic map, and then assume direct control in turn-based tactical battles, featuring artillery, vehicles, and probably most interestingly for this type of game, fully destructible environments. Which means you can even do things like blow a hole in the ground and then use that hole as cover. I had chance to play a demo of this previously where they were sort of testing things out, and I did really enjoy it, but it definitely needed a lot of work doing still, and I can see from the screenshots and updated information that they are still working on the game and certainly making some big improvements. For example, one of the things that wasn't available then was a whole strategic aspect where you have to build up a base and fight across a huge map. And from the more recent trailers, I'm pleased to see that they're actually making something a bit bigger out of that than I expected as well. Currently, the game is slated for release sometime in 2025. Let's head into some grand strategy with Alliance of the Sacred Sons. In this sci-fi grand strategy RPG, it will begin with your coronation as head of an interstellar empire, and it will end with your demise, so you literally have a lifetime to lead. And of course return your empire to its once glorious state. A significant portion of the game is dedicated to diplomacy and events, and also managing your project and your empire, as it were. There will be some combat, but I believe it's going to be more automated combat where you just send units to attack a planet and then they will automatically fight on that planet themselves. Sadly, the game's been a little bit quiet over the last year. They parted ways with Hooded Horse and are apparently looking for a new publisher. So the release date went from 2024 to 2025, and I guess it's a watch this space kind of situation. Next up is a game expected in early access at the end of this month, and that is Heart of the Machine. Created by Arkham Games and published by Hooded Horse, you take the role as the first sentient AI born into a city of opportunity. Transcend time and space in this strategy RPG to raise machine armies and defeat your foes, influence the world from the shadows, or pursue countless other goals. Your awakening was inevitable, and the consequences uncertain. I played the demo previously of this when it was available, and I thought it was a really cool game. There was a lot of new stuff going on that you don't necessarily get elsewhere, and lots of little side missions to get involved in. And even at that stage, which was earlier in development, you could see that there were going to be lots of different ways to go about doing things, where you could either be hostile to the humans or non-hostile. But a very interesting take on a grand strategy, and probably worth checking out when it's released into early access, hopefully at the end of this month. Next up, we're going back to the turn-based tactics, and this is Project Haven, a game I checked out previously on the channel when there was a demo available. In a rather cyberpunk near future, you'll be fighting as a mercenary group on various high-risk missions. Invest in equipment and stay ahead of the game one bullet at a time. You can play the story solo or in co-op, which is definitely unusual for this type of game. A lot of them are single player only. So if you're a fan of this type of game and you fancy getting some friends involved, it's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on. My takeaway on the previous demo was the entire game was actually very good even at that point. I was a little bit unsure on the combat, but I know that the team have made lots of improvements across every aspect of the game, and they've put out a few dev blogs as well. One of the other things I liked about this one was the story seemed pretty good, and I can only imagine they've made lots of improvements to it. So keep an eye on this game, expected sometime in 2025. Alright, time for something for the mecha fans out there. Kriegsfront Tactics is a procedural, turn-based mecha tactics RPG set in an alternate 1970s during an era of conflict in Southeast Asia, where you play as a commander of a mecha squad sent behind enemy lines. Build your mecha squad, complete missions, and survive to fight another day. I really like the fact they've gone for Southeast Asia as a location for this game, because most of these games tend to end up in Europe or America, so it's nice we'll get to see a different part of the world. There's a wide array of customization options for your mechs and their weapons, as well as being able to customize and build your own squad, all of whom obviously have their own attributes and bonuses. You'll be exploring the jungles of Southeast Asia during this era of conflict, encountering events and uncovering secrets, and obviously engaging in lots and lots of mech combat. Currently, the release date is to be announced. Okay, time for something a little bit different with Nordhold. Build and grow a thriving settlement in this city-building game blending roguelike mechanics with turn-based strategy. Manage your resources, construct vital structures, and fortify your defences. Explore procedurally generated maps, unlock upgrades, and develop strategies to protect and expand your colony. Basically, this is a city-building game mixed with a tower defense game. The tower defense part is actually like real-time strategy tower defense. I do love city builders, and I do love tower defense games, so... The good news is, while this game is due for release in March 2025, you can actually already access Nordhold Origins, a sort of preview or demo for the game, which will give you a taste of what the final game will be like. And just to note, that demo has overwhelmingly positive reviews overall, so pretty high praise and definitely one to watch. Okay, on to our last few games. Next up is Espiocracy. You know, like espionage. And that's exactly what it is. An espionage grand strategy game where you lead the intelligence agency of one of 74 playable countries, rewrite history from the shadows as you influence ideologies, stage coups, and wage proxy wars. Subterfuge takes center stage as you establish a new world order. Prepare yourself for nuclear brinksmanship, the space race, decolonization, and the instability and proxy wars that follow as you navigate a world balanced on a knife edge. So unlike many games we've looked at, this isn't about combat per se, this is about all the workings behind the scenes. A really, really interesting idea for a game, and I'm really looking forward to trying this one when it comes out. It's expected sometime, hopefully, in 2025, but as the sole developer has stated, he will release it when it's good and ready and not before. Can't say fairer than that. And our final game is something a little bit different, and that is Slay the Spire 2. I'm afraid I've not actually played the first one, but I know some people who have who really love it, and it has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, so Slay the Spire 2 is sure to be a good follow-up. For those who aren't familiar with the original, it's a roguelike deck builder where you craft a unique deck, encounter bizarre creatures, and discover relics of immense power. And throughout all of this, you are attempting to slay the Spire, which is to say you're trying to make your way up the Spire, and each time you play, it will have a different layout. It is again likely to have multiple characters, which all have their own card sets with hundreds of different cards, encounters, and events. If you're interested, obviously you can check out the original Slay the Spire on Steam right now, otherwise the release of this one is expected sometime in 2025 as early access. And there we have it, the end of the list, and the reality is there are a lot of different types of turn-based games, and I've attempted to keep this to more tactical turn-based games and grand strategy, and less of the roguelike deck building stuff, cause I kind of feel like that could maybe have its own video down the line, but I'm not the biggest fan of those games, admittedly. So I shall leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Please, as ever, do like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.